Hello, in this presentation we will be entering items related to inventory into QuickBooks Online. We will have a comprehensive QuickBooks Online course soon, if not available yet. We also have a comprehensive Excel course which complements the QuickBooks courses and a QuickBooks Pro desktop version course you can find at the link below. These are going to be the items for inventory that will be used as we create invoices and sales receipts. We are now at the QuickBooks dashboard. This will be our starting point every time. As we go through this, we're going to be entering those items related to inventory. So we're going to go to the Sales tab over here on the left-hand side. Within the Sales tab, we want to be in the Products and Services. You'll recall last time we have set up some items, but those were service items last time, not related to inventory. This time we're going to be selecting the inventory item. Remember that you will need the more advanced version or the higher priced version of QuickBooks to track inventory. If you're not tracking inventory, you can follow through this and use the service items and look through that information. If you have the inventory items, we will upload this now and we'll create some of the sales receipts and invoices using the inventory items. In order to do that, we're going to select the drop down for the new. Once again, we're going to import. We could record these one at a time. However, we're going to put the bulk import in up front, setting up all the items that we have as of this point in time. Later on, then we're going to, if we want to include another item as we go, we'll enter those items as we go. So we will go to the import here. And within the import, we have the browse function in order to import. We could import a CSV or Excel file. We will be using an Excel file. There's going to be the example here to take a look at. We're going to go ahead and open Excel and input this information to it. Here is our Excel tab. If you don't have Excel, you can try using Google Docs, but you'll need to try to save it as, I believe that it was the CSV, to try to save the format of it as the format that will be uploadable. If not, then we could also enter these just one by one into QuickBooks as well. I'm going to make this a little bit larger, so we're just going to go through some Excel items here. We're going to make this from 100. I'm going to increase it to, say, 160. Then we're going to go up top and we're just going to put in our item headers here. So we'll type these in. So we have an item name, and then I'm going to select tab to go to the next cell. I'm not going to worry about the fact that it does overlap, and I'm going to update or increase the size of the cells afterwards. So this next one's going to go way over, in other words, this line between B and C, and that's okay. We're going to keep that. So we'll type on sales description. Then I'm going to select tab, and it's way overlapping, and so this might be very disturbing to some people, but it's okay. I'm just going to type in here, and it'll type over this one. So we're going to say purchase description, and then we'll select tab. So don't go to the next cell and think that you're gonna skip one of these cells, because we will update it. That won't work with the table. So I'm gonna type in here in cell D1, even though there's stuff being populated in it. So as a purchase description, we have the cost is gonna be in D1, so make sure that's in cell D1, tab. And then in E1, we're in cell E1, we're gonna have the sales price. Then we're going to say tab, and then we've got something called cost of goods sold, which starts with a C, C-O-G-S, account, tab, and then we've got the income account, tab, the asset account, tab, sales tax code, tab, quantity on hand. I'm going to try to abbreviate with QTY, on hand, make that on hand, tab, and as of date. So note we have a lot more information here than we did when we're doing the service items. We're going to make this a bit larger so we can see everything, and then we'll go through it and see if it makes sense. So we'll put our cursor on the A so we see the drop down here. So I want to see this drop down arrow. Select the left tab and scroll all the way over to K. And then anywhere in between these cells, so it looks like this, not like that, but like that, we can double click and that'll widen the cell. Then we're going to go down here. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. It's at 160. I'm going to make it a bit smaller so we can see everything. And so bring it all the way down to 120. Then I'm going to highlight these cells, and we will make them bold so that when we update it, it knows that this is the header rows. So we'll highlight, I'm going to highlight from A1 over to K1, just the top row, because the rows underneath it, we will then be just typing in non-bolded information. We will go to the Home tab, Font Group, make it bold. So there we have that. And then we can start typing this in. Now what we have is the item name. That's what we're going to call it. It's going to be an abbreviated name, oftentimes, possibly just a number many times for certain companies. Sales description, that's what's going to show up on the invoice. Purchase description also could be recorded on the invoice or the purchase order. Cost, we're probably going to need that. I'm going to make that a little bit larger by putting my cursor between D and E. We're going to need it a little bit larger for the cost. And that's how much it's going to cost us, how much we're purchasing it for. Sales price, that's how much we're going to sell it for. Cost of goods sold account. So when we sell something, we're going to have to debit cost of goods sold, the expense related to us selling the inventory. And so we'll need that account there. And then we have the income account. That's going to be the income account related to us making sales of inventory, a revenue or income type account. Then we have the assets account. That's going to be the inventory account that we will use to, when we sell the inventory, we're going to have to reduce the asset account of inventory, merchandise inventory. And then we've got the sales tax code. Do we have sales tax? We're going to say yes or no there. And then the quantity on hand, how much we currently have. We're going to say that we do have some at this point, although we have not uploaded it into the QuickBooks system. And then the as of date. Remember, we're making this problem as of starting January 1st, 2021. So what we're going to do is enter this information as of the day before that, 12/31/2020, so that any kind of entry that the system will make if there's any temporary accounts involved, then it will make those adjustments and close them out as of the first day of operations that we want to be working on. So we didn't purchase any of these things in the first year of operations. We purchased them prior. Doesn't really matter when, as long as we just kind of draw the line and put those in place before the year in which we are working on. Okay, so now we're going to populate this information. This will be the most data input that we'll probably be doing through the entire problem here. So let's just enter this. The first one is going to be an ELP. That's going to be the item name. And then we're going to say and then I'm saying tab. And then the item description is going to be an Epiphone Les Paul. It's going to be a type of guitar. The sales description, I have to type it in again because if I upload it, if I have a reference, when I upload it, it might put the cell reference in there instead of the what we type. So what we could do is obviously copy it. So I could copy it, right-click and copy, right-click and paste. And then the cost is going to be $400. Now the cost and the sales price, I'd like to see pennies, just in case. So I'm going to highlight from D to E, let go, right-click the highlighted area. Then we're going to format cells, and we want to go to currency. We want to see the negatives, and we're going to say the $sign, no $sign, 2 decimal places. That should do it, and OK. So there's the $400, and then we're going to sell it for $500. Cost of goods sold account is going to be cost of goods sold. And I know that's going over again. That's okay. We'll adjust that at the end here. We've got merchandising account with the income account, which is going to be merchandise sales. And then we have the asset account, which is going to be inventory asset. Sales tax code is going to be tax. Quantity is going to be 1, and the as of date is going to be 12/31/20. That's going to be the last day of the year before the year that we're going to actually be entering data. Okay, let's go through this again. The second one's going to be an ENLPBUNH3, an awfully long description, and then we're going to have the description, which is an Epiphone Standard Pro. I'm going to copy that. right click and copy and put that same information in C3, right click and paste 1, 2, 3, or either way. Paste the other one. The amount is going to be 480. The cost, we're going to sell it for 600. Cost of goods sold will be the same. All these three will be the same from cost of goods sold to sales tax. So I'm going to right click and copy that. Put that underneath in F3, right click and paste. So there we have that. And the quantity on hand is going to be 1, same date, 12/31/20. I have to put dashes in there. 12-31/20. Okay, next item we have is an ERP93. It's going to be an Epiphone Riviera. I'm going to copy that, put that here. We're going to say that it's going to be for 440. 550 is what we sell it for. Cost of goods sold, merchandise inventory, inventory asset, sales tax, going to all be the same. Even this will be the same. So I'm going to copy this all the way across. Right click, copy, put that in F4, right click, paste it. So there we have that. And then the next item is going to be a GTPROBK1. That's going to be a Steinberger solid body. We'll copy that. By the way, these might be misspelled, and I apologize if I miss anything there. I'll try to spell check it this time. But right click and paste it. And we're going to say tab, and that's going to be for 328. We'll sell it for 410. And then we'll highlight these items here once again, all the way across. Right click and copy. And then we're going to paste that in F5, right click and paste. Next item we're going to have is going to be a GUSAM2. And we're going to say that that's a Gibson USA. We'll copy that. Paste that in C6, right click and paste. The amount then will be 304, 380. And then we're going to copy all this from F5 to K5. Right click and copy. Put that in F6, right click and paste. Now I'm just going to make one change here, and that's going to be that we're going to have 2 of these. So there's going to be 2 of these on hand. Last one, we're going to have the last one here, and that's going to be a wild cat. And that's going to be an Epiphone semi-hollow body. I'm going to copy that, put that here. We're going to sell that for, our cost is $320 to us, selling it for $400. And then once again, I'm going to copy from cost of goods sold all the way over to the date. Right click and copy. Put that underneath in F7, right click and paste. So there we have all that information. We are going to have 2 of those. So now we're going to attempt to upload this and see if there's any problems that we'll have. And if there are, we'll go back here and we'll fix them. That's going to be the typical process when we go through these uploading type of scenarios. We're going to save this now. We probably should have saved it up front, but we're living dangerously and we're going to save it now. So we'll go to File and we're going to go to Save As. We're going to select the area that we want to save, browsing through the computer. Then we'll rename this item and we're going to call it an inventory item. So we're going to say it's an inventory item. And this is, note the Excel type, it's going to be an Excel type document by default. But if you're using Google Docs and you wanted to see if you could change the type to another acceptable type, you can see that that's where you would go in an equivalent area within a Google Doc. So we're going to go ahead and save that. And there we have it. We will close this. And then go back to QuickBooks. So here we are at QuickBooks. And remember how we got here is we went to the Sales tab, we went to Products, and then we went to the drop-down and Import. So here we're going to import. We're going to browse now and locate that file that we have just created, which is going to be the inventory item. double click on that, or you can select it one time and open. I typically double click on it. And there we have, this should be imported now. You can see it here. And then we're going to go to the next. And it'll populate this once again. So let's go through these, make sure it lines up. So we've got the product or service type. That's going to be the item name. That looks correct. So note that this is matching up just the header column in our Excel sheet. So if we were to open up our Excel sheet just to verify what is going on here, we're trying to line up these header tabs. So it's saying that the item tab is lining up to, I'm going to make this go down to the product or service name. That's correct. We don't, the type, we should have had a type here. This will be a problem that might make us go back to the Excel document and enter this information. So we'll go and check the rest of it and then we'll go back through it. The sales description, if we see the drop down, it's going to pick up the sales description, looks right. And then the sales price, it's picking up the price column, that seems correct. The income account is going to be, the income account is what we labeled the line item on our worksheet as well, that looks good. Purchase description lines up to purchase description. Purchase cost lines up to purchase cost on the headers that we picked. So this all looks good. Now the expense account is not something that got picked up. We're going to go ahead and select the drop down and we're going to say that that should be the cost of goods sold. So it's a cost of goods sold expense when we sell the inventory items. The quantity on hand, we didn't match that up exactly because we gave it a short name of that. So that's how many items we had. So we called it QTY, quantity on hand. So we're going to select QTY on hand. And then we had the reorder point. We didn't have a reorder point, so we'll keep that blank, but for now, when do we want to reorder? And then we're going to have the inventory asset account. So the inventory asset account, we put as just asset account. So that's going to be that item. And the quantity as of date, we're going to select that. And we have the quantity as of date. I'm not sure, well, as of date. So if we would have matched those up a little bit more perfectly with their wording, these exact wordings of the headers, then it would match up more perfectly. If not, that's okay. We could still line up those headers, the headers that we have on our worksheet here, to their headers, and they should be similar. So we'll scroll back down. So these are the items. I'll scroll through them slowly. We want to match up this item to what we imported, and we should match up these here. Okay, so next we're going to say next and see if it stops us for anything, the items we don't have. I'm most concerned, of course, with the type. So we're going to say next, and we have these items here. So the income account, it's going to say that it doesn't see the income account, and the expense account, it's not seeing the expense account. We also have an issue with the type here. So if we select the type, we only see the two. So I'm going to add the type. And then the inventory income accounts wouldn't be a problem. We could scroll down and we'd say the inventory needs to be sales. We had merchandise, so we'd have to select sales. The cost of goods sold account, if we scroll down, we're looking for cost of goods sold, and so we can adjust that. We do need to fix this one, however. Let's scroll to the right and see what else we have. Everything else looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do is close this back out, and we're going to say yes. We're going to open up the Excel worksheet, and then we're going to go to this and add one more column over here and call it type. So it formatted for me, and I'm just going to put in inventory. So we have an inventory type. We're just going to copy that, paste it all the way down, and there we have it. So now we have an inventory type, and we're going to see if that will populate the way we would like it to. I'm going to go ahead and save this. Note too that if we went through here and we adjusted some of the names up here to be more specific, as well as those two that didn't match specifically, cost of goods sold and merchandise sales to just sales. Let's do that. Let's try to change this one to sales, the income account, and see if that matches up a little more nicely. But that's not going to stop us. So I right click and I paste that from moving forward. So we're going to go ahead and save this. Now clearly if you had a whole lot of data here, then you want it to match up really well, because we're going to have to go in there and make any adjustments within the system after we upload. So you want to match it up as close as possible. If you have a whole lot of information, that'll save you some time. You can go back and forth and make sure that everything is perfect if that is the case. So we're going to go ahead and save this and then close that back out with our new item. We're back here, so we're in the sales items. We're in the products and services within QuickBooks Online. And we are now going to select the drop down for new. We will import. And once again, we have the browse menu. We're going to select the browse button and find the file we would like to import. We want the inventory items here. So we got the inventory items. Double clicking on that. We're going to import that and then select next. That'll move us to the next screen. We do need to double check these again. So this looks good. The type now lines up with the type. So that's good. Sales description, sales price, income. These all look good. Cost lines up with the cost. That's good. And then we've got the expense. Remember, it needs to be cost of goods sold. We need the quantity on hand to line up with, scrolling down, QTY on hand. We want the reorder point. I didn't have one there, so we'll skip that. Inventory account is going to be, what did we call? That's going to be the inventory account is going to be the assets account. And then the quantity as of date is going to be quantity as of date. Now we'll select next and see what we have here. So we got next, and it looks like this is lining up. Looks good. And then we have the sales. Note that this lined up now because we adjusted that to sales. The cost of goods sold, however, was not perfect. So the expense account didn't show up perfectly. We're just going to go through here and pick the right one. It's cost of goods sold / cost of goods sold. So if we were to spell that perfectly in our system before importing, it would have then done it well. This is okay because we don't have too many items, and we can just go through here and select the proper account. So we'll just go through all of these. They'll all be the same account, cost of goods sold. And there we have that. So here's this information. Now note when we do this information, it's a bit different than when we did the service items in that we have quantities on hand. We're saying, hey, QuickBooks, we already have this. So QuickBooks is going to have to do a journal entry, meaning it's going to have to say this times this column. So 400 times 1, this times this times 2, this times 2. We'll add all those up, and that's how much we have in inventory at this point in time. It's also going to have to track inventory, and it's going to have to put the other side in some other account. So it's going to have to use some adjustment account. And that's why we're putting this information in as of the first day prior to the year we will be working on. We will be working on January 1st, 2021. Therefore, this is going in right prior to that. We'll try to import this now and see if it accepts this information. So we will import. We need to go back and adjust the inventory items. We had the type here, but the inventory is not populated because we didn't have the track field. So we're going to go ahead and track the inventory on each of them, and then it'll give us the inventory option. It'll give us the only option being inventory. Without that tracking field, if we select the option, it only gives us the other two, service and non-inventory, the two items that would be recorded or usable if we didn't have the tracking field. So here we're gonna go through here and we're just gonna select the track, and that'll convert this to inventory. So we'll track it all, and there we go. And so this information is now correct in terms of inventory. If we scroll back over, it looks good. Therefore, we're going to go ahead and import this information. See if this will take it this time. Okay, so we have 6 of 6 products, services successfully imported. That is good. So we're going to close this back out. And yes. And then close this out. Do you want to? Yeah. Okay, so now if we scroll back through here, we see our items. So remember, this bounces us back to sales and the product and services. If we scroll down now, we see our items. They're going to have both inventory and service items. If we want to just see what we have added, we can select this item here, go to the type, and we want just the inventory items, and we will apply that. So here we have our inventory items. Next, we'll take a look at what this will be like on the reports. So we're going to scroll down over here to the reports on the left side, and we're going to go to the Go To reports, and it'll give us a drop down of the normal reports we have here. We're going to go to a balance sheet and take a look at a balance sheet and see what we have. We're always going to have to change the dates because we're working a problem in the future. We're going to have the balance sheet as of 01/01/21. And that's going to go from 12/31/21. So this is going to be the year we'll actually be working in. So we're going to run this report. So we'll go over here and say run this report. And then here we have it. So there are our assets now have been created. Note also that it created this opening balance equity. That's what QuickBooks had to do in order to make this in balance. We're going to do something to that later on and adjust that information. But just note that that information is there. If we double click on any of this, we can zoom in on this information. So we're in the inventory asset. If I click on that, then we don't even need to double click. If we click on it once, it'll give us this information here. Now remember, we put the date in there as of December of the prior year, 2020. So we're not seeing the detail here. If we scroll back up and I change this date up here, from January 1st, 2020 to 12/31/21, and then run the report, we'll see the activity. We'll see all the information that we have input into the balance sheet, giving us the amount and the balance over here. So this gives us kind of running balance to show us that activity. If we double click on any of these items, we get to this screen, and this is basically kind of a default screen because we don't have an entry form here. What we did was just put these into the beginning balance. So it says inventory starting value here, and that's where we entered this data. Now we're going to go back to the reports over here, and we're going to be on the left hand side. We're going to look for another report, and I'm going to look for an inventory report. So I'm just going to type in inventory. And we got the inventory valuation detail, the summary, and the worksheet. I'm going to look at the valuation detail report. We can adjust the dates again. So I'm going to put the dates as of 12/31/20 and 12/31/20. Just the date that we entered anything there. And then we can run the report. And this will help us to see if we got it in there at the right date. Oftentimes, if there's a problem, it's a date issue. So it might be the fact that you have the information in here, but the date is wrong, so it doesn't populate exactly the same here. So that gives us our detail. It gives us the items that we have, the types of inventory that we have, quantity on hand, the rate. We're going to be using FIFO. That's what QuickBooks Online uses, rather than the on-ground, which uses average, and the quantity, and then the cost value that we will be seeing then as we add this up on the balance sheet. So this is going to be the report. We want to practice exporting this report now. We can print this report. We can export this report. Exporting is a really useful feature because it allows us to put everything on one tab. So we're going to go to the export, and we want to export to Excel. So we'll export to Excel, and then it just opens that up, opens up a new tab for Excel, and should populate that information as it opens up. I'm going to pull this over into our screen here. So there is the Excel document populated. Then you can go through here and make any adjustments. You can change the name. It put the tab name up there nicely. Put the name up top too, and so everything looks pretty nice in the first tab rather than just putting it in the header. And so we're going to go ahead and save this information. So we'll go to the File tab. We'll go to Save As, Browse, and look for where we want to put this. I'm going to put it into the Excel docs here. So for 6, I'm going to put that there. And the name here, it's naming it for the worksheet. I'm going to name it for the section 6 here and put that information like so. And then we're going to go ahead and save that. So there we have that information. And that will be exporting it. Going to close up the Excel tab, and that will be the inventory.